Bit of extra health back. Okay. Here we go again. Alright, now that we're on to Gael, I wanted to talk about this. Because kind of the big thing is like, who the fuck's this nobody? Why is he the final boss we're ever gonna get? In terms of Dark Souls 3 as its own entity, I think that Gael is the foil to the Soul of Cinder. Because the Soul of Cinder is the culmination of everybody who ever linked the fire. In that sense, it's the fan service for the people who chose the Link the Fire ending. If you appreciate, you know, Gwyn and all the stuff that he did and all the stuff that he stood for and the knights and, you know, what Artorias fought to defend was ended up corrupted, all this stuff, that's Soul of Cinder. You didn't really have an equivalent for the Dark Lord ending until now. I think that Slave Knight Gael succeeds in being a foil because I think that he shows the perseverance and, you know, kind of the selfishness of the Dark Lord ending. And the reason I always liked the Dark Lord ending in 1 was even though, you know, with the Artorias of the Abyss DLC, it showed the terrible effects of you know, the Age of Dark, the Age of Man. There was just something about, you know, sacrificing yourself for sake of the Age of the Gods and all this stuff that, I don't know, I didn't like the idea that you were manipulated into it, and I liked the idea of making your own choice. And it still doesn't invalidate the Link the Fire ending. I think if you do it on your own terms, that's like, it's still a totally valid ending, you know? It's not just, oh, you're being tricked, you're dumb. It's whether or not you agree with it, you know? And me, like, all the hardship you go through, I kind of want to see myself come out on the other end. Even if it's something kind of monstrous. You know, you see with Manus in the first game, kind of what he becomes. But yeah, like, Gael is that. And what's interesting is that the way that Soul of Cinder is a culmination of all those who linked the fire, Gael has literally consumed those who hold the Dark Soul, these other Dark Lords, the Pygmies. And you see that kind of, the faces growing out of his cape. He's absorbed them into himself and kind of taken their power as his own, so he's like this culminated Dark Lord. So if Soul of Cinder is the culminated First Flame, he's the culminated Dark Soul. And that's fucking awesome. At least to me. Maybe it's bullshit and stupid to people, but I was thinking about it today, and, you know, people say, why Gael? And other people in defense say, it's because Gael is like you. He goes through all of these hardships and whatnot. And maybe that's a little bit of a cheap out, like, oh, he's just like you, you know, like, to some, that might be not a fulfilling answer, but to me, I like the idea that he's the personification of the other ending of Dark Souls 1, you know? It doesn't matter who he is, really, you know? He could just as well be the horror after the Dark Lord ending in Dark Souls 1, but I think that's really what he's meant to represent. So